Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Right now, happy to have with us, in between a million things, Rick Wilson, co-founder of Lincoln Project. You see it on the Showtime miniseries now about the Lincoln Project. He is a former longtime GOP strategist, a New York Times #1 best-selling author, Running Against the Devil, A Plot to Save America from Trump, that book as well. Brother, good to see you. Thanks so much for making some time.
Hey, thanks, Dean. I appreciate it, brother.
So, look, have you ever, putting everything aside, you've worked in politics a long time, have you ever been, and I don't want to measure your concern, but as concerned about our democracy going into a midterm election as we are seeing right now?
This is the all-time red alert at every level. We have got election deniers like Carrie Lake. You've got, these extraordinary hyper-Christian nationalists like Doug Mastriano. You've got fraudsters and weirdos like Dr. Oz. You've got alt-right, 4chan dipshits like Blake Masters and JD Vance. And you've got hundreds and hundreds of Republican candidates who are running with the stated belief that Joe Biden's not our legitimate president, the 2020 election was stolen, that democracy is broken because they didn't get their outcome that they wanted. Well, democracy means, and a functioning constitutional republic means, sometimes you win and other times you lose. It's a binary system. It's not like parliament. It's not proportional. You win or you lose. And if you lose, you take your licks and you go home. If you lose close, you get a recount. These people don't want to recount. They don't want to reboot. They want a different decision, a different outcome. And there are people running now in about 300 of them as Republicans running for Congress, statewide offices, state legislative offices, who are outright election deniers, who are conspiracists and fantasists. And Dean, I think the real problem here is that in a big way, our media and the rest of our political system hasn't caught up with this very strange alternate reality in which these MAGA folks live now, and just how and a lack of understanding of just how serious they are about breaking every fundamental norm and institutional rule that we were governed ourselves by for 240 years so that they can have absolute power.
And that's very well put. And look what's going on in the Secretary of State races, which get so little coverage, but you have Nevada, you've got Michigan. I just had Adrian Fontes on yesterday, who's a Democratic nominee in Arizona running against Mark Fisher, who might be the worst of the bunch. And in Arizona, he was telling us about, and it's getting a little media coverage, these armed people challenging people when they're dropping off their ballots because of the 2,000 mules BS.
I took some shit the other day, but I said, and I had just been reading a book about Haiti recently, and I said, these guys are like the Tonton Macoute. They're going to be out there as armed thugs to intimidate people from speaking or voting. And I'm sorry, that's not America. I can remember back in 2008 when two jackass Black Panther guys stood outside of one precinct in Philadelphia, and Fox News ran story after story after story after story about, oh my God, they're coming to kill us all. And it's dead silence about this. This is an organized effort by thousands of people who are a well-funded organization. They're sending out masked and armed men to stand by ballot boxes to intimidate voters. I'm sorry. The Attorney General of Arizona should be arresting these people. Intimidation at voting places is completely unacceptable in a democracy. It is completely unacceptable in a constitutional republic. These strategies, though, are going to become more and more common. They're going to become more and more prevalent. We're going to face this more and more because the other side has decided that they will get to the X, they will get to power no matter what it takes. They will break anything in the way. They will threaten anybody they have to. Whatever it takes to gain and hold power is what they're going to do.
And, you invoked Haiti. To me, when I was talking to Adrian Fontes, he talked about Latin America. And I, being of Arab heritage, can tell you point blank, it's like images in Iraq with warlords. It's like having militias in Lebanon, where there's a political movement and a military wing, and they go out there with weapons. And they're not just standing by the ballot boxes, the drop boxes. What I've read is they're challenging people. They're saying, you're a mule and stuff. They're like parents going to drop off a ballot. And they're accusing them of being mules because of Denise D'Souza's ridiculous fiction, fantastical tale.
Yeah, I mean, look, 2,000 Mules is a extraordinary piece of agitprop, and while at the same time being so fucking dumb at every level that it would take extraordinary, like an extraordinary diet of lead paint chips, cheap plastic jug vodka, and head trauma to believe any of it. But millions of people believe it. That's because this country has a broken media system where we treat the two parties as the same thing, where they're not. One party is now completely beholden to this insanity, and one party is unable to grapple with the tactics that are being deployed against them. I mean, if the Democrats were smart, they would have flooded every one of those places with those observers, with 100 people with cameras, put them out under the spotlight, turn the panopticon back onto these assholes. Who are these guys? Where are they from? You know what? They're trying to dox voters. Right. They need to be doxed themselves. They need to be identified. We need to know who they are. State attorneys should bring charges against them. This is the kind of tactic that will escalate and get worse and worse and worse. And honestly, I don't think the Democrats are prepared to handle it. I don't think they understand. They're like outraged about it, but they're not taking action against it. Mark Elias, to his credit, is, but systematically, they need to push back on this. They need, at every drop box where these paramilitary guys are, they need to have eyewitnesses. They need to have cameras. They need to call the police if those people are threatening voters or intimidating them, and ratchet up the friction and the cost of doing this, because right now for the right wing it costs them almost nothing.
And I'm talking with Rick Wilson. Rick, let me tap into your former work as a GOP strategist and tell us something we keep saying. Well, the crime ads by Republicans, it's a proxy for race. And you see, because then we'll have people on MS go, look, the highest per capita murder rate states are red states.
Sure.
And even some polls show, even of Republicans, crime is not the top issue. It's in the middle or in the bottom. Is it fair to say, I mean, you used to make ads like this. Is it really a proxy for race? Is that what the crime ads are about?
It is frequently a proxy for race, but I will tell you, it's something more dangerous now. The people in this country most likely to be affected by crime are African Americans. By leaps and bounds, almost by an order of magnitude. And so, as James Clyburn said, the stupidest message he'd ever heard was defund the police. And so the Republicans are doing something that is unbelievably clever and diabolical. You've got to admire the elegance of the evil. They have decided they can get a twofer. They can scare the shit out of white voters in the suburbs, and they can say to African Americans, hey, the Democrats, your people, want to turn off the police coverage in your neighborhood. They don't want you to be protected. And so does that convert those people to Republicans? No. Does it lower their turnout? Absolutely. And that is the purpose of most negative ads, is to lower turnout. It's not to convert anybody. It's not to change any minds. People are always like, why does the Lincoln Project run these ads about Republicans? It's not just because I'm trying to try to convert these MAGAs into like right-thinking people. I'm not. I know that's not going to work.
Right.
But it will have an impact on their intensity of their voting intention and on how much work they're willing to do to go out and vote. So that's why Republicans are running these crime ads. It is unbelievably devious and powerful what they're doing. And I'm still shocked Democrats don't understand how to push back on it.
And how should they push back on it then?
Listen, that is a party that is fine when the crimes are being committed by Donald Trump. It's fine when the crimes are being committed by guys in cosplay military gear beating the shit out of cops on the steps of the Capitol. There is a way to, excuse me.
Fine, bro.
There's a way to bind them back. Let me get a bottle of water real quick.
Sure, no problem. He's back. He came back from the other side.
I'm back. It's a
it's
big
like
one.
it's like a horror movie, like you never returned. His last words.
Or his twin.
So
I have an ad coming out today, this Halloween themed horror ad. And if you watch it, there's an Easter egg of Lauren Boebert is the girl from The Ring.
Ah, very nice. I look forward to seeing it. So you were getting emotional about what the ad the Democrats should.
Look, it is an extraordinarily clever strategy.
Right. So what you Democrats did in response? You were saying talk about Republicans are fine when it's their criming, and when they're criming. And
Oh, yeah. And so, you know, the pushback here, Republicans are fine with crime if it's their people. They're fine with crime if it's a bunch of assholes storming the Capitol dressed up in cosplay military gear and beating up cops. They're fine if it's Donald Trump stealing classified nuclear secrets. They're fine with crime if it doesn't affect them. And so the idea of Democrats very frequently over time has been that they try to respond to emotion with policy, and they try to respond to an outrageous attack with a reasoned defense. You must try not to fall into that trap. When you are attacked like that, you have to push back against them with the same level of heat and emotion. And so there are a lot of angles they could be using to talk about crime as a pushback. But the ones that are too clever by half, the ones like honestly, the red states where the murders are, that's really not the same comparison, Dean. That's not a comparison that's emotionally evocative when you're doing an ad or when you're doing some sort of messaging back at them when they're doing something like this. It is an opportunity, though, to bring into the mix the things that make independent-leaning voters, softer Republican voters, suburban Republican voters. There's an opportunity there to talk to those people and to make them uncomfortable, because those people don't like the idea of storming the Capitol. They don't like the idea of classified documents in the basement of a fucking golf club in Palm Beach, Florida. Those things that they don't like, you can push back on with that, but it's not trivial to do so.
And I agree with you. The statistics, we talked about them on my show, and my point to the listeners is this is not about a fight over statistics. This is a visceral appeal to race by the right, and you have to respond in kind, because you're not going to win. This is not intellectual debate. It's just scary. Like Lee Zeldin's ad in New York is actual footage, close camera footage of people getting attacked, and it's mostly black and brown people beating up white people, and they're real crimes. He didn't stage it. And I'm like, you're not going to compete with that on statistics. Look what he's doing. You either call it out or go against him really hard in another way, because it's not about stats.
Yeah, it is. It's really not. Statistics rarely win a political emotion, battle of political emotions. And it's also because on the center and the left in this country, there is no concerted messaging operation that's runs from top to bottom. There is no Fox News telling every Republican voter, "Oh my God, Antifa's coming to murder you and rape your dog." There is no Facebook army of 1 billion drones and bots saying, did you know that in your neighborhood crime is up 4,072,000%?
Right.
None of that exists in the center and on the left, but it exists on the right. And it's a symptomatic, its effectiveness is symptomatic of how hermetically sealed that Republican and conservative messaging machine has made their political culture.
There's a lot of articles, I'm sure you saw them, Democratic consultants going, what should the Democrats' closing message be? And they're not to blame. We're one step before the blame game. We're like Democrats, some are saying they should have done this, others saying do this, there's still time to do it. What do you think the effective closing argument is here? We're 13 days from the last day you can vote, November 8th.
Show voters the future.
Okay.
Show voters the future. Show them what they're going to get. What they're going to get if they elect Republicans is a year and a half of impeachment hearings, of endless Hunter Biden laptop stories, they're going to bring the CDC and Dr. Fauci in for an investigation. They're going to do all this crazy talk that feeds their machine, because all they care about is running in 2024 and winning back the presidency. They're going to do everything under the sun except the things they're promising they're going to do. So show voters what the future really is. You think they're going to lower gas prices? Hell no, they're not going to lower gas prices. You think they're going to address inflation? They're going to shut down the government. That's going to make inflation vastly worse. They're going to do everything under the sun to feed the MAGA machine. So why do you want to tell that story? Because most American voters think that story is a hellish landscape. They don't want to be in that world. But unless Democrats can tell people what's coming, stop trying to sell them on what they've done. Okay, they blew that opportunity. They blew the opportunity on the infrastructure bill. Why was it my organization, a bunch of ex-Republican hacks, had to run the first ad about the infrastructure bill saying this is a great thing for America? It blows my mind that D-Trip or the DNC or the Senate committee didn't think, hey, this could help our candidates. Let's put out some media on this. No, it was the ex-Republican assholes who put the media out on it. So stop trying to brag about what you've done. It's not going to work. It's not moving voters right now. Scare the shit out of voters with what Republicans are going to do, because what they're going to do is scary as shit.
And what do you think? For example, Marjorie Taylor Greene has bragged she will have more clout. She's bragged about this if Republicans get control. What do you think?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, Large Marge, is going to be the most powerful Republican in Washington. More powerful than Mitch McConnell, more powerful than Kevin McCarthy. She has control over the MAGA bloc of the Republican caucus in the House. That bloc now comprises about 75% of the caucus. There are a few who are still like, they're pro-Trump, but they're not completely insane.
Right.
They're not completely like wackadoodle. But she controls the largest bloc of Republicans in DC. She will be the most powerful person, and she believes in Jewish space lasers. Voters do not understand the consequences of this election yet. Right now, they're thinking it's about gas prices and inflation. Democrats should be making sure they understand, because it's the truth. It's about chaos. It's about impeachment. It's about investigation. It's about revenge. And it's about bringing Trump back in 24.
Do you know Kevin McCarthy personally? Have you worked with Kevin?
Yes.
So
yes, I know Kevin.
What kind of person will he be? Will he be
Kevin will have a ball gag on and a leash around his neck. He will have no power whatsoever. Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Andy Banks, Lauren Boebert, Andy Biggs, Paul Gosar, those people are running Congress. Kevin McCarthy has he wants the title and the office. He doesn't care. He knows he doesn't have the power anymore. He's going to cling to power till the last second. I still believe that either Jim Jordan or Elise Stefanik is going to make a play for a speaker. They're going to say, you did okay, but you're not Trumpy enough. You should have won more because you didn't embrace Trump enough. Even though we look at Kevin McCarthy and go, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
Right.
The MAGAs don't think it's been sufficient.
That's remarkable that he's going to be the GIMP.
Oh yeah.
Pulp Fiction. You're going to have McCarthy. By the way,
bring out the GIMP.
Bring out the GIMP. It's Kevin McCarthy.
Kevin's sleeping.
What do you think? Look, Trump is not doing rallies every day in the lead up to this election. I'm reading they're putting more money into things. Do you think something's going on? Are there candidates that don't want him, knowing that he brings more Democrats out, or is he?
No,
what can you share?
Trump is a lazy creature by nature. He recognizes that he is about to announce for president on the 9th or 10th of November. Mm-hmm. He is about to announce that he will be running again. It will clear the field essentially. And he's saving up his energy right now for that big announcement suite. And I got to tell you, the Twitter deal with Elon Musk is probably going to close on Thursday at midnight this week. Donald Trump will be back on the platform right after that. And I think that as we see that reemergence of Trump as a major national figure, that's going to be what the empowering nature of it is. That's going to juice the whole thing in terms of him getting, the rocket fuel of Twitter is going to be back in Trump's tank.
When it does that, it's just remarkable. So before we wrap up, two quick last things. How do you feel about the House and the Senate? Like each one of those?
Look, the House is gone.
Honestly?
Yeah, the House is gone. I don't see any math where we win the House.
Okay. Senate?
Look, the good news and the bad news. The bad news is they're going to win the House. The good news is if this had been 8 months ago, they would have won 60 seats. And now they're going to win 13 to 15 seats. Mm-hmm. Maybe a few more, but not many. They will have a majority. That is the suck. It will not be a large, stable majority. That is the up. The Senate is still a crapshoot. Anybody who tells you they know how the Senate's going to land out is full of shit. The polling is so noisy. It's all over the board. it is mathematically just a shit show. You know, I can tell you where a few races are going to land, but the race, like, you know, the Kelly Masters race in Arizona is too close to call. Pennsylvania, too close to call. Those are not, that's not great news.
No, it's not.
Warnick,
what about Warnick Walker, Georgia?
That is a race where they have now spent close to $400 million total, and it is now too close to call. Now, the bad news in Georgia is that Republican early voting turnout is roughly equal to Democratic early voting turnout in the first few days of the returns. That is not great news.
No.
However, a lot of very Democratic counties have not really started sweeping in their early voting numbers yet. But Dean, you know, as we get close to wrapping up here, I want to say, folks, do not forget what happened in 2020. There was a big red wave early in the evening where same day election counts that happened immediately were immediately tallied, and they said, oh, well, Trump won Pennsylvania. And a lot of these states to do early and absentee don't count those things until the end of the night. Please be patient on election day. There are going to be a lot of people who claim the election's over, stop counting. Get out and vote now. Get your early vote in. Early voting is now live in, I think, like 38 states or something. It's widespread in all the key states. It's running now. That's the counteraction to bad news right now, is to get out and still hustle, because this election has been noisy. It's been back and forth in a lot of these different states. Things can still change. There can still be a lot of October surprises, because we're not quite out of October yet, folks.
No, we're not. And there's also, regardless how the House goes, Senate races and gubernatorial races and Secretary of State races are so fundamentally important. So, Rick, my friend, thanks for making, I know you're so busy. Thank you for making time. I look forward to chatting with you in the future.
Thank you, brother. I'd look forward to seeing you soon.
Take care.